This is WOCA, News Talk 1370.
This is James Snyder, inviting you to join me each Sunday morning at 9:30 for Sunday Joy on 1370 AM, 96.3 FM.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Nice looking Tuesday morning. 80 degrees here at the studios. We were just talking to Matt Gibbs, our mechanic, about cars, and self-driving cars comes up on the show a lot. And it's something I wonder about because, you say to yourself, gosh, I always liked driving. And then when you hear about an accident, you say, well, maybe we should have self-driving cars or self-correcting cars or something. Jodi Olshevski is on the phone. She's been with us before. She is a leading gerontologist. And the older I get, the more she will be studying me, Robin. Which is, I guess that's not such a bad thing. She's from the Hartford Center for Mature Market Excellence, and she's talking to us about a new survey from the Hartford and the MIT Age Lab looking at whether drivers 50 plus, that's us, will purchase a self-driving car and be comfortable using the new technology. Let's find out about this. Good morning, Jodi. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thanks.
And hopefully that echo went away, correct?
It did, yes.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am in Hartford, Connecticut.
Of course you would be in Hartford, Connecticut. Now, see, I go to the Northeast a lot. I like going up to New York, and I have relatives still in Connecticut. I guess they're not all dead. I got a couple left. I mean, it'd be nice to get into a car and just say, all right, take me there. And then what would I do while I'm driving? What would I do? Play checkers? What would I do if it's self-driving?
Yeah, it's interesting. The driverless car is absolutely the next frontier for really all of us, regardless of our age. But the survey that we just conducted at the Hartford with the MIT Age Lab, one of the areas that we looked into was their receptivity of drivers over the age of 50 to actually purchasing one of these vehicles and kind of letting go of the wheel. And it's kind of interesting. We found that about a third of people, so 35%, would be willing to do that if they could no longer drive safely. Then we wanted to know, well, what are the top reasons that would, cause you to purchase a self-driving car? And the first one is sort of obvious, right? They wanted to know that that these vehicles would have proven that they're as safe as them getting behind the vehicle. The second one is kind of the million-dollar question, and they told us that if their health prevented them from driving themselves, they would be willing to purchase one. So I think it's interesting. It's an interesting look as to what people are thinking about, and something we should really stay on top of as the technology advances and, provided these become available to us. It's important to know what people over the age of 50 think about them.
Are we going to have to change the infrastructure, or is that a question out of your league? Are the roads going to have to be different if we have self-driving cars?
I think there's a whole lot of questions that are unanswered. We're not specifically looking at that, but there are plenty of experts, both, in the government and private industry and in academic institutions, taking a look at all of those various issues.
Now, you're with Hartford, which is an insurance company, correct?
That's correct.
So how does the insurance company look at this? Do they see it favorably? Like, is it going to be fewer accidents, or are they still leery as well?
I work as a gerontologist, so I can't completely tell you what the thinking is, but I think that obviously the insurance industry and other groups are taking a close look and a close watch, because this is a huge change in terms of how we would live, how we'd get around, and I think the implications are very wide.
Can you imagine when we were all riding horses, what the talk was back in those days? Do you think old people are going to use these new cars? Yeah, I can't imagine. I was thinking Matt Gibbs, who does the show just before you came on, is a mechanic, and he's my mechanic, and he was complimenting me on the fact, because I'm 61, that I have gone along with technology, at least here in radio. We don't use reel-to-reel recorders anymore. But I was thinking, but a car, your life is in the hands of a machine.
Exactly.
If the computer goes down here and we go off the air, no big deal. Mm-hmm. Except for the boss. The boss gets upset. But but if the car goes cuckoo, like let's say the computer in the car that's driving me needs to be rebooted, then what do I do if I'm taking a nap? I can't.
Well, it is a big big change, and there's a path to the autonomous vehicle. So there's a ton of vehicle technologies that are currently available in cars, and our survey also looked at that. And I have to say, it was pretty fascinating. We found that car tech really is top of mind, even in terms of those that are currently available. So 76% of drivers who plan to buy a new car in the next 2 years told us that they're going to actively seek out these high-tech safety features, which is a little bit of a shift from drivers who bought a car in the last year. Only about 32% of them, about a third of them, told us that they were deliberately looking for these technologies. So it does seem like we're kind of in the midst of an interesting transition where car tech is getting trendy. It seems to be growing rapidly, this appetite for having the current vehicle technologies in the car.
Keyless starting of the car, too. I mean, all people have to do is push a button, their door opens, and then they just have to push another button and the car starts. You don't even have to put your key into the ignition anymore. Are they liking these features?
That absolutely is one of the technologies that are in vehicles. We didn't ask about that. Our focus was really on the features that are related to safety. So the item that was on the top of the list for drivers who are planning to buy a car was blind spot warning systems, and we've seen this repeatedly at the top of the list in a number of cities.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, because, most of us experience some changes, I'll say, in flexibility and range of motion as we age. That starts a lot earlier than many of us think. And so this technology obviously can provide support for some of the most challenging driving maneuvers, like yielding, merging, changing lanes, and making turns.
Yeah, plus the older we get, the more we buy these big, gigantic RVs. We definitely need those devices that we can see behind us.
Yeah. Have you installed then the rear cameras?
That is another item that, now is required to be built into new vehicles, I think, in the next year or two. And so that's becoming much more common and much more available for a lot of drivers.
The new cars are also probably going to have a cost factor in them. Is that part of the survey? Do the answers say, well, I might buy one if it's not so expensive?
We didn't look at it in this survey. We've looked at it in the past. I think that it is certainly something for people to consider. That's shifted, I think, as they become more available. And it's an important factor to keep in mind if you're in the market for a new vehicle. Many of the manufacturers package some of these together. And so it's a good thing to talk to the dealer about if you're looking for a new car.
Go ahead. And what about the size of the car? Because I know sometimes people like the sporty two-seaters and others like the large SUV. Is there a trend among the older folks about what size they want?
We didn't really look at that. We were primarily focused on vehicle technologies, but certainly car fit is very important. So making sure that the car that you do purchase, that you can see clearly, that it fits comfortably, you can reach everything. I think that's all really important.
Jodi, before we say goodbye, my notes indicate something about the AARP driver safety sponsorship. What is that?
Yeah, so we have a long-standing partnership with them, and now we've committed $1 million over the next 3 years to really expand our partnership and to jointly develop an exclusive education program to help drivers in general understand these current and evolving vehicle technologies, how they might enhance their driving safety and extend their driving years, and really on how they can choose the technologies that best suit their needs. We think that education is so critical, even if you're not actively looking for them. If you're buying a new car, you're going to get one with a backup camera. So how do you use them? How do you learn to use them? We think that's really going to be essential.
Yeah, I only just started using GPS myself. The funny thing is you put the GPS on the windshield so you can see it, and then you sometimes look at that instead of the rear view mirror. You got to get used to you've got two things to look at over there. Yeah, that could be dangerous too. Everything takes getting used to. There was a story this morning. There was an actor who played in Star Trek, 27 years old, and he died because he thought he put his car, Jeep Cherokee, in park, and apparently it was in neutral and it rolled into him. I don't know if you saw that story.
No.
Yeah, so that's a technology issue too that I guess we have to be aware of, and I guess it doesn't clunk anymore when you put it into park. You don't feel that absolute the car's not going anywhere feeling. So in general, we're going to see driverless cars soon, and there's going to be old folks in them.
Well, I think they're certainly willing. We learned from the survey, a third of them are
Well, it's going to be an interesting world, isn't it? Well, thank you, Jodi, for being on the air with us today. And do you want to leave us with a website so we can look at the survey for ourselves?
Sure. The website is thehartford.com/cartech.
Oh, okay. Easy enough. Thank you, Jodi. That was fun. We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.